Hello. Hey everybody, we're getting started. Sorry for the delay there. We had some epic audio problems. I'm Zach. We're at IGDA Twin Cities. If you haven't been here before, welcome. We meet every month, same day every month, the second Wednesday. Just go ahead and mark that on your calendar. Don't do anything else. I'd like to start with a round of applause for our wonderful host at the Nerdery for feeding us. Thank you. And we typically do a larger presentation, which then will be Andy, and then what I've always called a member project. If you're interested in showing something off, getting feedback, anything at all from an interactive fiction, a mod for an FPS or an adventure game or something like that. Don't be shy. Anything 5 to 20 minutes is fair game. Ryan's going to be doing that tonight, and since you probably know Ryan, so I'll just let him explain what he's doing.
Thank you, Zach. I don't really know. I'm not really planning for this. I'm just happy that the screen works. I'm real high about that. Don't change it. You could ask her to go sit in the middle of the room. Alright, I was turning this way so I could really see the screen. Like I said, I'm not real prepared for this. But, so it's sort of a quick member project. I'm just going to talk because I'm good at that. Here we go. So has anybody ever heard of the Winnitron? Yes. Anybody else? Anybody? What is it? Winnitron 1000 is an arcade machine. You can't really see it. The screen's a little dark. But essentially, Winnipeg, Canada, they built an arcade machine. What's in it is independent games. And they have a whole Wi-Fi network. It's part of the Indie Game Arcade Network, so it downloads games. Has a whole bunch of good ones out there. But instead of me really explaining it, I do have a video that does it very well. Which is half the reason we were having trouble with audio.
The Winnitron 1000 is an incredible indie game arcade machine that can connect to the internet to download new games. It has all kinds of indie game exclusives like 2-player Cannonball, 2-player Super Crate Box, which people are playing right now behind me. And it's just kind of like an awesome way to cross-promote indie games and have a good time.
I think we were having a game. Well, we were having a game jam, a small game jam in Winnipeg, and a bunch of guys there were like, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we got together and made an arcade machine for independent game developers?"
It was pretty much that straightforward. And then we're like, "Oh, there's this Tron thing." So we could either call ours the Manitobatron or the Manitron, which sounded a bit too manly, or the Winnitron. I think we went with the right choice. And then we added the idea of online stuff, and that sort of made it take off in a big way, I think.
The Winnitron is so cool because it brings independent game developers together. It promotes independent games. It showcases them, so independent game developers who may not even had their games displayed much before can come by and see their games on it, and people can play them and find out about them. So it really promotes independent games, which is really cool, I think. So
I think the Winnitron's important to the indie community because it's a way to showcase indie game developers' work in a more social way. Like, a lot of the stuff happens online, and that's cool, but standing next to your buddy and playing Force or playing Super Crate Box versus your friend is a completely different experience than playing it online or just talking about it on forums. It's much more real and fun, and it's just a cool thing to bring back. Like, a lot of us remember the old arcades from back in the day, and it's neat to bring that back in a modern way where it's actually really cool and free to play. There's 2 Winnitrons. There's one in the Netherlands called Winnitron NL, and one in Winnipeg, of course. But there's a whole bunch more that are being made just by people who want to make them. If you want to get your game on the Winnitron, you should post on our Bit Collective forums and email us, get in touch.
We're always open to people like coming by and talking to us about it. So if they want to get involved, like, they just have to come up and talk to us, and we're happy to get them involved.
So that's the Winnitron, and I'm super interested in that because I've been trying to build an arcade machine for a few years, actually. It's a real slow process for me anyway. That's only because interest ebbs and wanes. Anyway, the whole point I'm here is that I make games, you make games, let's make some games together now. So I know that IGDA has had a couple like community projects before. There was Extinction Fist, which I'll demo here in a minute. But now that I'm out of school and I have a little bit more free time, I think it'd be fun. And Winnitron is like a perfect target. It's this kind of cool thing for showcasing indie games and everything that we said. So I thought I'd kind of throw it out there, see if anybody's interested. Go over this stuff real quick. In order to be on the Winnitron 1000, it has to be a computer, right? Arcade pressure design means that it's sort of based two-player, no quick gameplay. This isn't any Zelda experience. It's play for a minute, maybe two. Resolution controls. I actually wrote 4-way joystick. I believe it's 8-way. I mean, there's Windows executable, and they have a high score API and some sort of tweet API, which you can interface with leaderboards and stuff like that. And then they sort of listed some of the games. The biggest ones I thought of that I really knew was Cannibalt, Robots Everywhere. There's a number of games. Super Crate Box, which I've seen before, but I've never played. I'll go over a little demo here of an interface typical of an arcade cabinet, a main machine. Does everybody know what a main machine is? No. All right. So, the old arcade games of the late 70s, 80s, 90s, they had big cards that would go in them. Technically, you just build like a ROM and then run it through an emulator. You've probably run emulators on your PC before, something like that. It could be anything from old arcade games to Super Nintendo or Game Boy or something like that. And so what people do is they build a main arcade cabinet. That's a cabinet that just sort of houses it specifically for running emulators. And that's pretty neat. And this particular thing, Hyperspin, is an interface that lets you get access to all of those emulators and games, and it kind of hooks up everything for you. So I've built an actual controller that I'll do that. Before I talk about that, okay. I thought I'd real quick just say, I built a controller out of, in preparation for this. This is what I've been planning in the latest of my design rendering. I built it out of foam board. I actually built the controller here. So it's real wood, real buttons. I actually don't have any main games or anything. I'm not that interested in that anymore. But, how it works is it's literally treats it as a keyboard. So it just tricks out button inputs and joystick inputs and treats them like a keyboard input. So I'm going to actually be playing with the keyboard here, but it's the same thing as the controller. So you just run a whole bunch of wires, and it's not hard. Let's see if I can actually find that. Exactly what I did exactly. So if you build an arcade cabinet or refurbished one, this is actually what you could end up seeing. It's just one of them. There's tons of them out there. But this one is kind of nice and flashy because of all the videos and the ability to change themes and stuff like that. So the idea is you can plug in all sorts of emulators and then use games. Let's see if I can actually get to. So I went and made a. Are you doing that to me? You're screwing with me right now.
I think it's a lag. Which one do you want?
Could be a lag, yeah. What are the IGDAs having to it?
So this is the actual.
Yeah, it's running on that PC I bought specifically to throw into that blue cabinet or whatever I end up designing there. So press 1. So here is, I know Tori worked on it, I'm not sure who else, but I actually have Extinction Fist running. So if you hit 1, I think it'll work. That's 1. So literally what it does is you can tell it to launch PCS. Is it not showing?
Did it switch reds?
It might have switched resolution. Alright, hit escape.
It's really cool, you're missing it.
Let me just say you run around punching dinosaurs as Chuck Norris with huge love for this. You're really missing out. It's incredible. Just hit down arrow. One more. I made that background. That was fun. Go down one more. There you go. Try that one. So this is just something that I was making with my kid, but it's real easy to plug into the. So hit 5, because I have a little coin thing up there, yep, and then hit 1. And it's arrow keys and control the sheet.
Is that good?
It looked good.
There you go. So, obviously it's not beta.
Brian, you're a good drawer.
That background was made in Microsoft Paint.
Oh.
That was good.
Should we do the next one?
No. That's all I got. Anyway, you can plug in, I was hopefully going to plug in grade and stuff. You can plug in all sorts of games and then map controls to actually launch it through an interface like that. Alright, so basically this is a call for if anybody's interested in making a game or even working with me to make an arcade cabinet, Nerdery might be interested in building one here. If they do, I'll build it for them. If we make games, they can go on there. So if you've got any ideas for anything, games design, interface, I've got a lot of ideas and I can't even keep them straight. But I have talked to Games & Go. They do a yearly tournament thing. They would say they could drag a game cabinet there and actually play the game in the tournament, which I thought would be pretty neat. Could be involved in a game jam. And my local bowling alley expressed potential interest in causing my cabinet. So, talk to me, or if you're interested in making a game. That's it. Thank you.
So we're going to take just a brief break, I promise. We're going to get Andy's stuff all wired up, and you guys will be back here. What time is it? We got a clock?
7:10.
7:10. You guys will be back here in 8 minutes. You're ready to go. The Virality pizza, the bathrooms are just on the other side of the break room. So as we go, if you have a question, just kind of raise your hand. We'll probably pass you a mic to try to get it to show up on the recording. Or maybe grab a couple mics and pass it around. So let's give a round of applause for Andy.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming out for the summer evening to talk gaming. This is my first time speaking to the IGDA and to be here. Kind of looking at this as like if this were an auto club, this would just be showing off what we got under the hood and warts and all that good stuff. Stuff that we've learned, so just taking ideas. Alright, so Conquer is the GeoSocial game of world domination. What is GeoSocial? GeoSocial is this buzzword we're trying to dominate on the SEO boards that basically means the intersection of mobile gaming, social gaming, layered on top of the real world using location-based services in your mobile devices. You're going to demo. This is our main website. Right now, we launched Conquer in September of 2010. 2010 at a Startup Weekend event, and we were accepted as finalists for South by Southwest Accelerator Program last March. What we're going to demo right now is the HTML5 web demo that we launched. Alright, so box here, it's all HTML5. We're going to use HTML5 application-based services. Everything on the screen is Cites for mobile device. It's live right now, actually. People have a mobile phone with like iPhone and Android. Windows Phone is, if you have Mango, you'll be able to play it. Alright, so here we are. Right now, invisible wars raging all around the state, past, present, future. Most people just do this, but what we've done is created a backstory where Conquer is this artificial intelligence that has just appeared on the internet, and nobody knows where it's come from or what its purpose in life is, but they just know that it's here and that it has a name. We've got factions fracturing on all sides to decide whether they think Conquer is good or evil. And have too many screens here because most people just click next to it. If you want to read the text, feel free to create a character. Alright, first major choice is choice of factions. We have the poster boards up here. The Legion think that Conquer is evil and is going to destroy humanity. It's basically the next incarnation of Skynet. And so they band together to destroy Conquer where they can find it. The Faceless are loosely organized faction built in hackers who want Conquer's technology for their own ends. They're basically anonymous. We've got a couple representatives over here. And the Swarm think that Conquer is actually it's going to pave the way to the singularity and to greater bright future. So the way we've kind of set up the factions is that no one faction is right, no one good versus evil situation. Kind of taken off of Blizzard, you got Alliance Forward or Protoss or Terran, that kind of mechanic. Hopefully that keeps the factions pretty well balanced based on people's preferences. So that's a great mechanic. Legion character, so faction begin, and this will open with our wonderful HTML JavaScript pop-up tutorial. Welcome to battles underway. The zone screen displays the statue of the battle you're currently in. So, all right. This is the main zone screen that identifies where you are. So I've already clicked the pop-up to allow browser to use your current location. So we dropped a zone for the nerdery here in Minnesota, the United States. We've got 3 million pins around the world that represent all the little zones. If you think about it, it's basically Risk across the face of the earth meets Foursquare with hopefully some cool data mechanics. So right now, the Faceless has already taken charge of the nerdery. So if any Swarm or Legion players want to try to take it back, get in there and start bombing away. Dark Obi-Wan is the capturer, which is basically like a little bit like the Foursquare mayor. It's the person that flipped the zone in favor, basically captured the flag. The controlled by, which isn't wired up yet, is controlled by is actually more like the mayor. That's going to be the person who has the most bots in the zone. So out of the 1,700, it's probably all Jeff, but there were like 6 people here. The person with the most bots would have the controller modifier, and everybody else with bonuses to weapon and range and defense and stuff like that. Up top we got the rank, private, I just started. My name is LG11. I got no money, Conquer credits or Q credits. Level 1, I'm just a noob. The bottom of the basic, this is all HTML5. It's styled to look like the iOS standard navigation buttons with map, zone, profile, all that stuff. The main action happens on the launch screen. It's basically a turn-based tactical strategy game. There's no animation or anything going on right now, but in the final iOS version, we'll have it. This is the next fabulous tutorial with JavaScript pop-up, basically explaining how the attack system works. So right now, I'm level 1, I only have access to attack bots. So the basic premise is that Conquer technology has unlocked the secrets to nanotechnology and how to weaponize them. And as you level up, you gain access to more advanced bots and formations. So right now, I'm just a noob. I have this is my nanobot tank down here. I have 250 in my tank. I'm going to do an attack command. I'm going to go to Azure and get our server. Awesome. All right, so location services. Let me try to log in. The idea is that it basically launch bots and take over territory. So let's try it again. So it recognizes that I'm at the nerd. Ooh, the swarm. Whoever's playing swarm just knocked out Darth Obi-Wan. Now I'm logged in as a faceless character. Let's see if I can. I have access to all the high-level stuff because I'm level 150 in this guy and drugs. I'm going to launch a defense. The defense mechanism is more like a turtle. So attack bots are tearing down the other guy's bots. So actually, I don't do that. So the swarm already took it. I want to use my attack bots. This work. Awesome. Okay, so we have this very satisfying JavaScript pop-up that tells you how much XP you got. In the final iOS version, we're going to have this cool animation. That's the little nanobot guys battling it out. But for now, you get enough an idea of what's going on. I launched 2.8 million attack bots. I killed 950 of the swarm bots. We're working on balancing it so that, there we go, I captured the territory for the nerdery for the faceless. I can tweet this out if I wanted to. There. You can see I used about a third of my bots. We basically designed it as you level up, the skill you use takes more and more bots. So the gameplay session is only going to last, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. But then you can see that the bots are ticking up over time. So it takes about an hour and a half to fill the bar, no matter what level you're on. Unless you want to pay for virtual good upgrades. So it'll be a freemium game to play, and you pay for things like bot refreshes, new missiles, speedy refreshes. So it's designed to be quick social interactions. You have 2 or 3 minutes to play. You check in at school or work, or hopefully not in the car. You just do that 3 or 4 times a day. Then there's in this version we just have attack, which is tearing down the other guy's bots. Defend bots, which are more like turtling, and they don't actually attack. They help you accumulate. So you can either tear the other guy's bars down or help bump your team's bars up. And you have different attack achievements and stuff based on whatever type of play you like to use. Boost and jam are support mechanisms where they basically affect your team. So like if there's 10,000 boost spots in the zone, everybody else attacking bots will be 10% more effective. We're still working on play balance and all that. Jam bots are the exact opposite. They jam the opponent's effectiveness. So you can see not too far from Foursquare, but hopefully we got some beginnings of some cool battle mechanics going on. Now let's take a look at the map. Okay, so we use a JavaScript map running the tiles are served by CloudMate. They run on the OpenStreetMap platform, so all of the GPS data and stuff is completely free through there. We wanted to style it a little bit. The original map had big maps and Google Maps, but CloudMate allows you to do different styles and stuff, so it doesn't quite look like a Google Maps out of the gate. So we've got all these zones are controlled by the 3 different factions. You can kind of surf around, see who's in charge of different zones. So down here, here's a swarm zone that I think I want to take over. Corp Cargill, Minnesota. I'm not going to have enough bots to do this. But since I'm high level, I'm not actually present in the zone. I'm 3 miles away from there. So if I want to attack it, I have to use a long-range missile, which cost credits. This takes 275 lower bots, so I'm not quite there yet. Wait a minute. Move around the depot. So the depot is the store where you buy all the in-game weapons. Everything is purchasable for Conquer credits, a little pound symbol inside the queue, and these are completely unbalanced in the web beta as we prepare to launch the iOS version and all the mobile versions. We'll have a more dynamic pricing system. Actually, mines aren't aware, but the idea of a mine is you can plant a mine in a zone, nobody would be able to detect it. If you launch an attack bot in the mine, wipe them out before they can do the attack. So in the depot, in the final version, we'll have, this is where you'll be able to buy the premium goods. So everything here is purchasable for Conquer credits, which is like the secondary currency. In Farmville, it would be the coins. It's all the currency you can actually earn in game. If you want to upgrade and have a faster attack rate, you'll be able to buy tiered upgrades. So like right now, I think I'm on tier 1. If I was on tier 2, I would generate bots 5% faster. If I wanted to buy, I could purchase energy tanks, so I could purchase a tank that would hold another 1,000 bots for $5 or whatever. We're still working on all the pricing, but that's the general revenue. That's the main revenue model of the virtual goods. All right, and so how you actually earn credits in the game is you plant bases around the world, and bases are they're basically harvesters that are harvesting this resource we call crystalline, and you get every 5 levels you can create a new base and you plant it in a different location. It's a pretty easy harvest all mechanic. You don't have to think too much. You don't have to actually be physically present to harvest the bases. But if you want to build one, you can only build one in the place that you are. And I don't think scrolling works. Down below, there's a nerdery base that's just built now, so I think you can hold up to 30 bases. And this is the beginning of the idea where it's a GeoSocial. This is where the GeoSocial kicks in. So all these bases are in different locations that are held by different factions. So if I'm faceless and I'm in the faceless own state falls, I'm going to harvest the bots at 100%, which will take about 6 hours to fill up. If I'm in second place, it'll take about 12 hours to fill up. If I'm in last place, it'll take 24 hours. So this is the initial core conflict mechanic where you're going to be battling over resources. And the incentive is that you hold zones for your team so that your team gathers more resources, buys higher, bigger weapons, yada, 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 Lord of War kind of stuff. And the idea is that eventually we'll have more robust bases. Right now they just harvest the basic resource, crystalline, but eventually we'll have a more robust resource model, plutonium, steel, iron, whatever. Maybe there'll be factories that are able to be built that can refine those things farther and farther from raw materials into finished goods. And in the final version, you'll actually build these harvesters. And I created a base, I automatically got one. In the iOS, mobile version, you have to actually build the harvesters using your nanobots. So you have the nanobots are really the core hook. They're used to attack, they're used to build things, they're used to defend, and so you have to choose wisely how you spend your nanobots and how you budget them throughout the day. And if you want to buy refreshes and stuff like that, that's when it kicks in. If you want to spend real money. I think I should have enough bots to launch this now. Going down. And everything is HTML based. We don't have a lot of animation. Okay, it might take a little bit more time. Swarm is a dominating savage. So we've got kind of this UI metaphor. You lock in the attack that you want to do. The grayed out ones are ineligible for this territory. Right. Launch a missile. The missile is a pure attack, so I launched 2.7 billion. None of them survived, but I destroyed 3.6 million of theirs. So in the final game, that's your ratio of kills to defense is It's going to be important for how you rank up and how you level up. So the more efficient you are, the more tactical you are, the better you do in rankings. That's part of that goes to part of the mastery and the challenge aspect of the game. From a guide that if you're in the game, that'll basically just describe all the weapons and stuff. And like how the screen just scrolls infinitely, they quite get that done before they launch. Last important piece is the wire. This is where the social aspect kicks in. Right now we just have the tutorial and incoming alerts. The tutorial basically walks you through the basic core loops of the game. Incoming alert is where the storyline will come in. So we want it to be this pervasive universe that's always going on. Your faction has NPCs that are the faction leaders. Faceless is led by Prometheus, who's this hooded hacker dude, like that standard archetype. The Swarm is led by a Kimyo Nagumo, who's a kick-ass Japanese nanoscientist, and she's one of the ones that's leading the charge of weaponry. And Legion is led by Agent Sunday, who's this badass Angelina Jolie spy chick. She's basically ex-CIA, and they're fighting, John Connor stuff to take out Skynet. And so the wire is going to be one of the initial places where all the NPCs communicate with the players and give them, feedback if there's missions and stuff like that. We need you to take over Minneapolis or whatever. Furthermore, we want it to jump out of the game. So obviously the social networks, Twitter and Facebook, and be able to post directly to your wall or your Twitter feed. And there's a cool app that we saw at one of the mini-star demos called Social Samba, a local company, where it's basically scripted Facebook events. So you basically come up with characters and you give them scripts that happen as triggers. And so, let's say you level up from private to sergeant, will automatically kick out on your Facebook wall if you opt in. Obviously, use Facebook Connect, will write to your Facebook wall saying, "Congratulations, here's some social thing or whatever." Jump out of the project. And that's about it for the HTML demo. You'll be able to, the finished game, you'll be able to recruit friends, and actually you'll be able to stage attacks and help defend your friends' bases. So if I were standing, if you're a Swarm and you're an Avid Squirt, you'd be able to do special operations that attack all of the bases there. Or do graffiti like tagging. That's one of the kind of premium upsell things we'll be able to sell, like a special, Roy was here, or your name was here, you'll be able to tag my base and reduce its effectiveness by 50% until one of my friends comes and cleans the bases. So it's the farm bill, visit your friend's farm, water their crops, that kind of thing. Question?
Yeah, with the bases, how are you planning to provide nature with information about that? Because right now, all I see is that there's a base and a harvest. And I don't really understand all the other dynamics that you're talking about.
Very good question. It's something we're working on a lot. We've had debates on whether we want the harvesters to actually show up on the map, like as pins.
Yeah.
There's a couple issues with that. It can get noisy if you have a lot of harvesters. It might take up a lot of actual phone CPU resources. And there's I kind of waffle on the privacy issue too. Like if I have a harvester on my house, a lot of the other GeoSocial games out there now, like wars and stuff like that, you create your first home base and it shows a pin like on your house. It's very hyper local. That might be the way to go. We're still kind of debating that. But most likely it'll be a more robust bases screen that'll allow you to drill into the individual bases and have more information. UI-wise, how we're going to do that, I'm not sure. Probably be like this, and then you actually click on it, and then it'll expand into a regional overview and a tactical overview of whether the Swarm or the Faceless is in the zone. Don't have a lot of real estate to work with UI-wise. We also future hook, like this is on the roadmap, is we want to create a Facebook base, basically. Take Farmville, but make it a Conquer base and tie it to your actual location. locations. So you play on your phone, you're in Disney World, you create a base in Disney World, and now when you come home or log into Facebook, you go to your apps over there, and now you've got a completely different interface that maybe looks like Farmville, some isometric tile thing, and you've got more robust things that you can do with your base, like missile launchers, shields, whatever. That's still very much in the drawing board. But we think the idea of integrating between mobile and Facebook is compelling, and nobody's really done it yet. Okay. So, all right, so that's the demo. We'll kind of walk through some of our history. I didn't bring these up. But right now, the HTML demo integrates with Twitter a couple different ways. We have a Concast account that we record all the time, that we track when zones split when somebody's captured them. And so it's been really neat. You can watch Concast and watch the stream come through. We've got people in Flanders, Belgium. I think the last time we looked, we had well over 30 countries were represented. We've only had about 1,000 users signed up so far, but they're all over the world. And the viral nature is, the viral hooks are there. And then on the right is people that actually want to brag. Well, you captured Beverly Hills or something like that. You saw it pop up when I captured the murderer. That'll tweet it out to here directly. And now we've got people bragging about to their friends, and hopefully their cave values will keep rough. All right, so here's the team. There's 7 of us on the team right now. This is our indie rock label cover band. And this was an awesome 360 camera that we had at the South by Southwest. So this is basically us in design meetings, trying to figure out what the best moves are. This is me. I've been a web programmer for 12 years now, started at BestBuy.com, and just kind of been working in corporate environments. I got into computer science, found my aptitude, love programming games. I went to college for computer science so that I could make games when I got out of school. 12 years later, and finally started to do it. So this has been a thrill. I help run a couple of user groups around town. A lot of our guys are active with communities. Scott and Justin also are here today. Justin and Scott, they also run user groups and know about town. All right, so we'll kind of give you the backstory. We went to Startup Weekend. Has anybody heard of Startup Weekend? They do it's like a 48-hour code jam. You start on Friday. You get September last year, about 100 people came to Coco shared location in downtown St. Paul. Friday night, everybody lines up and gives pitches on what they think would be a cool idea. All sorts of stuff was pitched, like garage sale finder app on the iPhone. And, Rock Your Block is represented here. They got second, which is basically a Facebook application to connect teams with jobs to help build a resume, and really good humanitarian effort there. Tell your kids. And so, okay, the basic idea, Justin had the idea on Friday, just kind of pitching it around. We worked together, and he was like, what do you guys think about this thing? It's basically Risk meets Foursquare. They've got nanobots, and they form armies. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'm doing that. And so we went up there. There was about, 40 pitchers or so. 100 people there. You can pitch as many times as you want. You voted on the top 15, and then everybody kind of scattered. The founders who did the pitching scattered around the room, and then everybody kind of percolated and talked to people that thought were cool. And then it was like 54 hours till Sunday at 5 to actually launch your product. And we were lucky enough to have a lot of programmers that worked together. The name Conquer was actually, Conquer.com was locked up 5 minutes before Justin did the actual pitch. So, I don't know, anytime you get a 4 or 5 letter .com name, I'm all for it. So, there was 5 of us that started that weekend. We slept about 4 hours the whole time. We got a working HTML demo done. The screenshot on the right is what the zone screen used to look like using some crappy free jQuery theme. And then the screen on the left is the best screenshot that I had on my phone from the Silverlight application that basically was the map screen with all the pins nice and animated. It's not still running, but it will be part of the final release. If you go to Conquer.com, you'll be able to see the map and interact with it, even if you're not a player. So we want to feel like there's a battle going on in their part of it. So we won startup weekend, and the prize was to go to Chicago and represent Minnesota for this convention called Mid-Ventures launch, and it was an amazing opportunity. We got to meet a whole bunch of people. We got a little 2-foot table down in the demo pit with about 20 other people, or 20 other startups, and there's some other really cool activities going on down there. We had the CEO of Wintron as the keynote speaker, and a bunch of investor types and business types. It was a lot of suits. It wasn't a lot of gamers, so we didn't convert a lot of people, but we got a lot of great feedback. And a couple things were really important about it. One, we only had 8 days to do it, so it forced us to take this thing that we slated, us there asked for a weekend. It gave us a week to actually flesh it out and make it somewhat more real and actually add some gameplay to it. And so all these kind of mini deadlines helped crystallize and make the app more real. Oh crap, we gotta get this thing done by December. We're gonna get it ready for South by Southwest in March. So I don't know about you guys, but I have at least 1,000 .coms that are registered on GoDaddy or wherever, and I worked on it for about 8 hours, and then I'm on to the next shiny thing. Well, what's been really cool about QONQR, the team is kick-ass, and having all these little mini deadlines help make the thing real and perpetuate itself. So that's my recommendation. If you're working on a game, sign up for crap, even if it's scary and you don't think you can make it. Put it on the calendar. It's like signing up for a marathon at the end of the year. Now you know you got to do it, so you guys are trained. So we just launched, and then in December, kind of on a whim, we'd really love to go to South by Southwest because that's where the Twitter and Foursquare and stuff like that really took off and got a core critical mass of users. And so kind of on a whim, Justin submitted the app, and we're like, all right, it's worth a shot. We heard back in January that we were accepted as one of the finalists to their accelerator program, which is a startup competition, and they're in the entertainment category. I think there was 5 or 6 categories. We're in the entertainment category, and we also signed up for a booth in their Screenburn Arcade, which is a really mini E3 gaming section. South by Southwest is 2 weeks long. The first week is interactive, which is basically anything app related or web related, and the second week is movies and music and artsy stuff. So we were in the Screenburn Arcade, and this was actually the best part of the experience, I think. We printed out all this stuff on a shoestring budget at Kinko's the day before, and it was pretty well received. Not pictured up in the upper left was the developers of Thor for PlayStation 3. So they had these giant, 50-inch plasmas that were kicking out just awesome 3D graphics. And here's us with our corny little HTML demo where nobody's ever going to talk to us. But we literally launched the beta noon as we were sitting there with the last minute Twitter integration and security stuff got set up so we could actually sign in and play the game. And it was a big success. Everybody that came by, we'd start with the hook. I mean, we're not super extroverted sales guys, but you start talking to people over and over again, and you just start refining the pitch. And you'd see somebody look in and be like, hey, can I tell you about QONQR? It's the GeoSocial Games World Domination. And 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, and even if it's some guy in a suit, he's like, I don't get what you guys are doing, but my kid's gonna love it. So the feedback was awesome, and even the criticism, wanting more. It wasn't working on a couple of browsers and some of the old Androids and stuff like that. Got a lot of great feedback. Made a lot of great context there as well. Investors, some people from NBC Universal. We were getting a lot of interest in white labeling QONQR, which is basically make a version for Best Buy. The Marine, we had a guy from the Marines would be like, this is awesome, we need America's Army times QONQR. I would pay the bills. So a lot of great connections were made there. They were great. I'm definitely going to go back next year.
What exactly would a white label company want with QONQR? I guess I'm having trouble visualizing how they would use it.
Yeah, so we would take away all the all the QONQR AI and the faces and so on. We'd take away all of the storyline stuff, and we'd put pins on the map for all the Best Buy locations, or there was a supermarket. There's a guy from a supermarket in Texas that has 1,000 locations. And he's like, this would be perfect for me. We didn't really know why that would be. Scott wants to take this one.
So we were there, and one of the guys that came up to us and wanted to know about white labeling, he said, I make gizmos.
I make gizmos that runners put on their arm, and we know where they run, we know how much they run, they do this training, and I want QONQR to integrate with my gizmo, because right now all my customers can do is go to the website and download an Excel file or a spreadsheet that says how many miles you ran and how many calories you burned and all that stuff and your heart rate. He said, I want people to capture territory based on where they run. And I want them to recruit their friends to run with them on their team so they'll buy my gizmos. And so here's gamification of what is now just a way to help people run faster and train better, and put some game mechanic behind it to encourage them to do it more, but then also to recruit their friends and buy his product.
So cool. And one of our drawing board ideas, even from start of weekend, was that white labeling is one thing where we would completely put the box of the store on there, but we've talked a lot about having sponsored battlegrounds where in the QONQR universe, we always use Best Buy. The Best Buy stores would be physical locations. They would have pins on the map, and then if you go there and you check in, you either get bots refreshed faster or you get some special deal, and ultimately, hopefully, you'll be able to tie into like the point of sale systems, and that's kind of future pie in the sky stuff. But we've had conversations with Robert Stevens of CTO of Best Buy, and it was interesting. He wasn't exactly signing checks, but it was good feedback. So we're not quite sure it's there yet, but Foursquare, who's actually paving the way for us, we don't see Foursquare as a direct competitor, it's more indirect, kind of in the check-in space. But they've done promotions with McDonald's and Starbucks and stuff like that, and really driven. They've shown good numbers. So retailers are turning on to it, but it's still such a new tech that they're not really ready to staff it, and so that's the big thing. Is if they're going to actually dedicate resources to supporting either QONQR sponsoring battlegrounds or white labeling. Okay, so then the actual competition was awesome. Our main man Justin up there doing our 2-minute presentation. So the accelerator program, entertainment category, it's supposed to be startups, right? Every other company that was up there was at least a year old, had at least $1 million in financing. The company that won it had $10 million in financing, and it was Android to iOS video chat entertainment. I don't know, like FaceTime, cross-platform FaceTime. So the deck was a little bit stacked. Oh, also one of the other contestants in our category was actually Lord British. So if you ever played Ultima, Richard Garriott, we were up against him. So, and he's from Austin, so we didn't exactly edge him out. But we got a lot of props on our presentation, a lot of great feedback. Justin got interviewed by Veronica Belmont and Carly Lewis and a bunch of, Pelopina. Good Web 2.0 exposure. So fantastic opportunity. I highly recommend it. We got lucky to get in, but made a lot of good contacts. The latest opportunity that we've been in, we got the Carlson School of Management hosts a Minnesota Cup, which is a business plan competition. What was great about this, we got in the high-tech category. The idea is you write a 20-page business plan, and then judges, entrepreneurs, and business folks around the cities read it and give you feedback and hook you up with some mentors and stuff like that. That's definitely tailored to the suits, but it forced us to do the homework of actually doing the market research, figuring out how big the gaming market is, all that kind of stuff. That to me was kind of like getting a little mini NBA in a can. So it was not fun, but it was really instructive. And being forced to do the homework, now we have a document that we can take to investors and say, here's how we would spend the money if we get such and such conversion rates. We'll make $500 million in 2 months. All right, so kind of moving on. We're in transition right now where we're not supporting the HTML beta anymore. We're just kind of letting it run and letting people check it out and give feedback. We're working on the Windows Phone version and the Android version because that's what we know. One of our guys, Don Felker, wrote the book Android Programming for Dummies, so we're lucky to have him on our team. Scott's big into Windows Phone 7, so he's been kicking ass on the map stuff. So this is all written in Silverlight. I wish I could show you, but we just couldn't get it compiling before we started today. But it's all animated. So instead of the JavaScript thing you saw and you click on a map bot map icon. Now if you click on an icon, it'll spin and zoom out, and you'll see all the bars and a little bit more animated. We would have loved to have written Angry Birds or Plants vs. Zombies or something like that, but none of us had ever done any animation or game programming or anything like that, so we went with what we knew, which was web programming and very async kind of stuff. But now as we get ready to launch the mobile versions, we're going to have more animation stuff. Like instead of the JavaScript pop-up saying, you got 200 XP and killed 50 bots, we're going to have actual animations and little rewards for the players. All still on the drawing board. Next steps. Oh, okay, so the peak of inflated expectations. This is the Gartner hype curve. You've probably seen it before. We've kind of gone through that with South by Southwest, where it was like, okay, this is the next best thing. We're gonna be the next Zynga, and now it's kind of like, okay, now we actually have to build the thing, and now we're in the zone where we're probably about 4 to 6 weeks away from probably being in the App Store if all goes well, or the marketplace and the Windows Phone marketplace. iOS, we're probably going to outsource or partner with some local developers. So we're in the plateau of productivity now, we like to think. The future versions I mentioned, sponsored Battlegrounds. We want to get the Facebook Farmville base component launched in the next 6 to 9 months, and then launch. Conquer's ready to play globally. We've got 3 million battle zones around the world, but we want to actually get in the app stores, and you've got to. There's not one app store to rule them all. You have to get into Finland and England and Germany ones on each phone, and that requires translation and localization and a lot of resources that we don't have right now. So it's on the roadmap. We want it to be a global game, but obviously we're going to start launching in the U.S. And then the high-level goal is to be able to launch other GeoSocial games. So obviously sci-fi, we're tied. Conquer's a very sci-fi, Terminator, Skynet kind of theme, but perhaps a Mafia Wars might be more, might sell better. So the theme is very important. We want to be able to spin up, use the Conquer technology as a platform to start skinning other games. So this little quote is from a thing called the Developer Manifesto, and I couldn't find the guy that wrote it, but make your product better in 2 ways every day. That's kind of like kind of our mantra, my mantra. We're all still full-time at our day job, so this has all been nights and weekends for the last 9 months and stuff like that. We're getting to the point where we want to transition to full-time and either start looking for funding or hopefully we wanted to get launched under our own power so that when we actually go to the VCs, we can say we've got X amount of users and X amount of revenue, so we'll have a better negotiating position. Or ideally, we never actually take venture capital money and keep all the equity. Backing up from startup weekend, kind of get into more game designy stuff. Where are we at now? 8 o'clock. A couple great books. Damon and Freedom TM by Daniel Suarez and Snow Crash. In Damon, basically, not to spoil it, but a video game developer dies, and his legacy is that he programmed this AI to scan RSS feeds and all sorts of news things for his death. And as soon as that happens, then a bunch of daemon processes kick off, and his artificial intelligence starts taking over corporate networks and all sorts of cool, insidious things. So that's kind of a big. The Conquer AI is kind of born out of that. Also, Snow Crash in the metaverse and that kind of classic sci-fi novel, Matrix style. We've got war games on the left with Matthew Broderick. We've got kind of the concept of a global thermonuclear war with the only way to win is not to play. These are kind of our core influences. Star Trek, obviously, for our interface, we'd love to have something a lot more clicky and expandy. Hopefully with the iOS version, we'll be able to do a lot more animations. Like on the launch screen, everything was kind of static lock-in buttons. We'd like to have more kind of swipe and drop down kind of, give the user much better feedback. And that goes to a later point why we decided to go native. Fight Club, we'd like to have that aesthetic where you don't know who's playing. I mean, hopefully people are playing now, and if you looked at the nerdery, it's going up and down. You're looking around like who's playing, who's on my team, who's not. If we succeeded in evoking that kind of emotion, then I think that's a good win. From the massively multiplayer standpoint, so we didn't really talk about this. Conquer's a MMO. It's persistent world. Most of us were World of Warcraft addicts. I mean, players for a while. And kind of took a lot of inspiration from the energy and mana bars, the nanobot bar ticking down. We'd love to get to the point where we have raid content. So this is Ragnaros from the Molten Core. We want to have kind of this idea of building big bots like Devastator in Transformers. He gets combined out of 5 big bots. So like it might take 10,000 bots for you to build the leg and 50,000 bots for you to build the torso, and then somehow in the game we haven't figured out how to do this UI-wise. You build a big Devastator robot, and now the guys on the other team have to shoot missiles and take him down, or else he's going to dominate the zone. That's where we want to get with this, probably version 2, version 3. So a lot more interesting than Farmville, hopefully. I was a big Star Wars Galaxies player in the original days. I don't know, anybody play Galaxies at launch? They had a fantastic resource harvesting model where this is an overland map. If you were a surveyor class, you could scan for deposits of copper, or they had like water, like Luke is going to get moisture harvesters or whatever. I'm blowing the line. Tashi Station. And then each of the resources had different properties. So you might find copper real close to the city, but it has very low conductivity. But copper that's way out in the boonies that takes like 20 minutes to get to might have very high conductivity that all the weaponsmiths like to use to build better blasters and stuff like that. So that's another place where we'd like to get to, is a rich resource model. Hopefully without being, EVE Online, where it's a big Excel document, Excel wars, but it's a design goal. And then lastly, these are a couple, I think, really corny but addictive iPhone mobile games. The one on the left is OG, which is this super corny gangster PvP beat 'em up with no animation. You basically, you can fight all these guys on the left, and they're corny gang names or whatever, but you level up and you get XP and stuff like that. And the one on the right, kind of hard to see, is World War by Storm 8. I think this is their bestseller. You can see a lot of influences. Obviously, there's money. You earn money by conquering or building bases. You have health that is used for PvP, which we don't have a direct PvP component right now. It's a little bit random. Energy, which allows you to do missions, and ammo. So there's these limited resources that refill over time. We're obviously the appointment mechanic, Farmville, Mafia Wars. We're not reinventing the wheel here. But what's a little bit interesting, and these, like the PvP version, you actually attack one person directly, but the games band you based on level. So I'm level 10 in OG. I can only fight other level 10 characters. We didn't really want to limit Conquer like that, so this was a difficult design decision, but we target a person for you. So you launch attack bots, we figure out who the highest threat in the zone is. So you might be level 10, but the highest threat in the zone is level 50. You're gonna attack his guys and try to take down the king of the hill, because he's probably the controller or whatever. So in version 1, we do the targeting for you. In a future version, that's the kind of thing that we can sell as an upgrade. If you want to buy a recon bot or something like that, then you'd be able to you'd have an advantage that you paid for to be able to specifically target high-level guys. But then also the flip side is true. We don't want guys at level 150, which is the level cap, to be able to just plink off level 10 guys, because that's no fun. That's why Warcraft and all these games have newbie zones where high-level players aren't allowed to PvP. So difficult design decisions. We're still working through them. So beta architecture. Let's see, how do we do this? This was our, original screenshots. We want people to, we want the experience to be seamless regardless of platform. So it's kind of an audacious design goal, but to be able to launch close to simultaneous on iPhone, Android, and Windows Phone 7 allows everybody to play with their friends, because so often games you're locked into playing only with friends on that same platform. Like, we want everybody to be able to feel like they can jump in a car and go take over a park or something like that. And it doesn't matter as long as you have a phone with GPS, which is obviously the market for that is exploding. Quick interactions many times a day. That was the original design goal. We found that through a lot of feedback that there's players that want to have a deeper interaction. They might want a half-hour session on a weekend or something like that. A lot of the Mafia Wars games and stuff like that have weekend wars. That's stuff that we'll probably add on the drawing board. Let's go Mac. Really simple from a dev point of view. It's an ASP.NET MVC app. We've got the front end, obviously HTML and JavaScript, and on the back end, we were just on discount ASP. Okay, so this is a horrible graph that I made right before the meeting that kind of I tried to illustrate what our beta feedback was. So we have just under 1,000 users, and you can see the big adoption curve. I don't know. I should have done logarithmic scale or something like that, but really it's about a third of our users that people have actually gone through the pain of signing up have zero experience, which means they bounced. So our tutorials are crap, is what it tells us. This is good beta feedback. And part of what a successful mobile and social app is going to have good metrics wired in from the start. There's a bunch of third-party tools that allow you to do that. And you can identify all the drop-off cliffs where people quit your game, basically. Whether it's on the very front page or sign in, or maybe it's 2 weeks later, you can find where all those big spikes are and then address those bottlenecks with more content, better tutorials, anything like that. So what was encouraging to us, because we kind of threw it out there, it's out by Southwest, not knowing if anybody's going to like it. There's no flashy animation or anything like that. But what we found, it's actually there's about 45 people that have already hit the level cap after about 3 months, which means they've come back dozens and dozens of times, which tells us we've got the core of something sticky that's, even if it's not flashy or anything like that, the core game loops and compulsion loops are there. It's something to build on. So the graph doesn't look pretty awesome, but I'm encouraged by it. Credits is in a similar vein, terrible graph. This is probably the hardest problem we don't quite know how to solve. In an MMO, the economy is vitally important because if a very finite amount of people have all the money, they can buy all the big weapons and wipe everybody else out, and it's not fun for everybody. So this is probably our biggest challenge is that it's top heavy, that a very small number of players have all the money. But it's, we want to have catch-up mechanics where if your team is behind, it might be, I don't know, computer enhanced. Your harvesters might. Actually, we haven't really talked about that, but we'd basically have catch-up mechanics where if you're behind, you can get a computer boost. So the economy, very important. Hopefully, when we get out there, when we get live, we'll have like that War Games command center where we'll be able to see in real time how much money is in the faceless coffers, how much money is in the swarm coffers, and adapt in real time. This is a screenshot of what the final version when mobile is going to look like. There's a lot more screens than I showed in the demo, and it's another challenge of a mobile app where you have limited real estate. So we only have the 5 buttons on the bottom. We decided we're going to make the middle one a home screen, and from there, that's going to be where most of your jump-off points are. But then the major ones that don't really show up is profile on the left, bases on number 2, home screen. Depot is a first-class citizen because that's where people will actually make purchases and hopefully pay our bills. And then the wire is first class because that's the jump-off point for social. So it's kind of interesting having to make those hard decisions on what's going to live where UX-wise. Target architecture, so obviously we'll try to launch on 3 different phones. It's close to simultaneously. It's a REST app running on ASP.NET MVC, returning JSON back down to the clients, and gives us a lot more flexibility. The web app, obviously, we had to render the whole web page every time, and we have to push a lot more data down. And in this way, the clients will be able to, if the client makes a request, we can actually do an animation on the phone, distract them while we're 2 or 3 seconds are happening on the server as a battle happens. All the way down in the back end, we've got game mechanics, business rules. QONQR services, which actually that'll integrate with all the external clients. iPhone and Android support in-app purchases. Windows Phone 7 does not yet, so we'll have to start with PayPal platform or payment platform. We're using Azure hosting. We're in the BizSpark program, so we get there's like 16 months of free hosting, and then after that, hopefully we're revenue positive. Right now, everything is modeled in SQL Azure, so instead of the Azure table storage. SQL Azure is really expensive per byte or per gig compared to the table storage, but it was a decision we made early on where we know relational. We've done relational models forever, so we started with that, and then as we identify bottlenecks, then we'll put it into the more NoSQL solution, which is Azure table storage, because that stuff is cheaper and it scales. You can partition it out, so you can start to think like 3 million zones. It doesn't really make sense to put that in a big SQL table. It's much easier to put. It'll be much more efficient to put that into tables that can be partitioned by latitude and longitude or whatever is the most efficient. Tooling. So we all have day jobs. We're all working pretty much remotely. We use a lot of apps to get things done, but it can be easy to fall into the tool porn trap where you just keep trying new stuff and until you spend more time learning a tool than actually getting stuff done. So that's what the yak shaving thing is there. Don't shave the yak. Like I said, we're a BizSpark partner. This gives us a lot of all the Microsoft licenses and the Azure hosting. We use Google Apps for all of our mail and document stuff. Dropbox is fantastic for sharing Word documents. So we use Google Docs for like the collaborative editing, brainstorming sessions like that. But then once we get something fully baked, we'll drop it into Dropbox, and then we'll have better versioning and easier to share. SVN and TeamCity to do source control and building. HipChat is fantastic for group collaborations. It's Group IM. And you can have multiple rooms. So we have a main Conquer thread room, and then we have a room for our daily Scrum and a room for combat mechanics. Kind of keeps all the conversations mapped up. We kind of fell off. We started using a wiki, but that kind of fell off. It didn't really serve our needs too well. Twilio we haven't integrated yet, but that's a great API for integrating phone calls or phone services. So if you can imagine, if you hold the nerdery and now the swarm has taken it over, if you opt in, we send you a text message immediately giving you feedback outside the game or a push notification maybe. Now you know that your home base is under attack. You can respond in real time. So hopefully we get to the point of more real-time battles. Another tool I didn't mention, Pivotal Tracker, we use for we're trying to get used more often for story management. So we want to be agile as opposed to waterfall. So Pivotal Tracker allows you to actually let me bring it up because I think that's worthwhile. How are we doing on time? Was it 8:30 or okay? Try again. All right, so this is our storyboard basically. You got the icebox, which is the pie in the sky. Just capture all the features that you can think of, put them up there. The backlog is the stuff that we're currently working on in the given sprint. Current is people can grab stories that they're working on and pull them into current, and then accept or reject is kind of, we don't really have a business owner. We all kind of own the thing at the same time. But this is how we manage our workflow basically. While I'm out here, there's a couple things I wanted to jump off and talk about. So this is where all the magic of game design happens. It's pretty much Excel wars. So we wanted to, if anybody has any ideas on how to manage and leveling and keeping a game economy in check, please let me know. I've looked all over for tools, and we basically rolled our own. There's a lot of numbers up here, but the basic idea is we want to keep track of a tight user experience as much as possible, at least in the initial 10, 20 levels or so, because that's so important to get the player hooked and get them enough feedback that they're like, okay, I get what's going on in this game, now I want to come back. If they did 1 or 2 deployments and they're out of bots, then we might not have them hooked yet. So we used the modification of the old D&D formula for experience. So every level, first level you need 50 XP, next one 150. I don't have the actual formula up here, but this lets us figure out, see at a glance how much XP is needed for the next level. Right now, XP is tied specifically to bots. So we know how many bots you have at each given level. We know how many actions it'll take to get to the next level, and so now we can guide your experience at least through the initial levels to
hopefully get you to like level 10 or so before the bots start to peter out. If you can kind of imagine as you're leveling up, your bar keeps refilling, but then it takes more experience to get to the next level. So right around level 10 is the inflection point where they don't have enough bots to make it to the next level. So that gives them the first buying decision, which is, would you like to spend 10 cents to buy a nanobot refresh or something like that? And those are the exact kind of things that you tie into metrics so that you can figure out if people are if they're dropping off at that point, if they're even making to that point. And we're making this all up as we go along because we don't really know what the way is. And we also talked about how some of the premium upgrades will give you faster bot refreshes or bigger tanks. So that's what these two columns on the right are. Yeah. Like I said, Excel Wars. And then over here is where we actually tie each level unlocks a certain amount of new abilities or new items or new weapons, or you can make more bases. This is actually kind of a little bit old. We want to give something at least something at every level so that the player feels like they're getting proper carrots and stuff like that. I don't know. That's probably too much noise, but this is where all the game dev magic happens, is in Excel. Similarly, we on the launch screen we showed there was 8 buttons. The ones on the left actually took an item. I didn't really explain that, but you actually have to buy a missile to launch it. But the ones on the right are always available formations. We want to make that more robust so that the player has more tactical choices, hopefully without being overloaded. We've broken down the categories into attack bots. Like I said, those tear down the other guy's bots if you're behind in the zone. If you're ahead in the zone, you want to use defender bots, which are blue. The attack bots are orange. And if you want to support your team, then use the yellow booster bots. I don't know if I want to show this. So obviously play balance is a hard problem. You've got most MMOs suffer from, it's going to work first try, flavor build of the week or whatever. So like if you're in Warcraft and the rogues just got their talent tree restructured, now they're more powerful in PvP. So you've got this constant refreshing of the classes, and the nerf bat. Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Hello, computer. All right. Well, I basically wrote a simple WinForms battle simulation that mimics all of the different attacks that you can do, so we can run simulations in real time instead of having to run through the application. And we can play balance. All right, 100 attack bots versus 100 defend bots. What's the right ratio of kills, and then how to add in random number generators. I think the mouse might be dead. The keyboard's working over there, but it's not taking over here. So I don't know. Technical difficulties. Other kind of design-y stuff. I had a bunch of slides in there I probably won't even get to. I'll tweet out the links later.
Are you going to do like a season system or working world events or anything like that to bring in or entice new players so there's always active?
Absolutely. We want it to be evolving content in an emerging world. Anybody play WoW back in the AQ40 days? Ankh Karaj. It was a dungeon that took a world event to open. So you had nice. Okay, so you basically had all the guys on the Horde and all the guys on the Alliance donating cloth and gold and all the vendor scrap stuff, and they needed millions of turn-ins. So it took thousands. It took months for thousands of players to unlock the gates of AQ40. That's exactly the kind of stuff that we'd like to get to. It's on the drawing board. Version 1, we don't have the bandwidth to do that kind of stuff. But I think those activities like that are things that people talk about. People that dig that will talk about that, tell their friends. They'll be like, you got to try this awesome game. It's like nothing you've ever seen. And then hopefully thanks. Yeah, okay, so world events, and then like I was mentioning before, social Samba, having something that reaches out into Facebook and Twitter and actually alerts you in real time. we want the idea that Conquer is actually happening in real time all around, whether you're on your phone or on Facebook or whatever. We want it to kind of jump out of the browser and jump out of the phone, and world events and stuff like that is a big part of it. And scripted events. Like one of the probably the first things is, so you're harvesting resources and you're getting credits. You're getting Conquer credits ostensibly from Conquer your faction's high command, because all factions are racing. It's a race to gather the more resources, and whoever gets the most first will be able to unlock like the Devastator bots or whatever. That's all drawing board stuff, but I kind of think that'd be a lot cooler than growing more wheat. I got nothing. No, couple. I don't know. I was gonna go into some design stuff. There's a couple of my favorite designers are Raph Koster, who has created Ultima, the original Ultima Online, the original Star Wars Galaxies. He wrote a book called Theory of Fun, which I highly recommend. Basically talks about what fun is. It gets a little philosophical, but it basically talks about how we enjoy learning new things, and those new things are patterns. And as you consume more patterns, you get more proficient at them, and you become a master. So the idea is that the act of mastery is fun, and then the idea that fun games allow you. There's a graph with you got challenge on this axis and skill on this axis. When you start out, you're a total noob. Everything is super hard. Then it's no fun because everything is too hard. I quit. Versus if everything's too easy out of the gate, your skill is too high in this direction. Then everything's too easy. I quit. This is no fun. Move on to something more challenging. So the idea is if you got this dual axis, you want to be in the flow state, which is that perfect or diagonal axis where it's just hard enough that you want to get to the next level, or there's enough carrots. You want to have a good mix of intrinsic and extrinsic motivators. So the extrinsic motivators are like your level and your credits and how many missiles you have and all the points in games, all the staples. But the intrinsic motivators tend to be more important to stickiness and how long you stay playing the game. So those are things like guilds in Warcraft and all the other MMOs. We want to add that layer where you're on the faceless faction, but you're actually in a guild that's very focused on building those Devastator bots, and your guild is now kind of the glue that keeps you in the game. Sort of metagame type stuff. What else I got in there? Question?
Hello? Sorry. I didn't quite understand how you're going to keep... it sounds like a purely competitive game, and how you're going to keep the big guys from wrecking the fun for the little guys, if there's some high-level design things that you're thinking of.
Really, really good question, and we kind of see that in a few places where like Savage had 100,000 bots out and nobody else could take them over. So one mechanic we talked about is the notion of this gray goo, where the nanobots deteriorate over time. So you might be Swarm and Savage, and you have 100,000 bots, but the more bots you get there, the more they decay, so there'll be a decay mechanic. We'll also have a pull-down mechanic, which is a mysterious fourth AI. We might add a fourth like black bar that's the computer that starts to grow over time if you don't come back. So if you plant your 100,000 bots and then you don't visit it for a week, you might come back and find you're down to 10,000 bots. So basically the computer cheats. Like if you're up 6 touchdowns in Madden, all of a sudden every Hail Mary the computer throws wins. That's the simplest thing that we've come up with so far. But then that's only gonna get you so far. What we want to build is more elder game, end game content, which would be raids and guild kingdom building and stuff like that. There's another good game called Parallel Kingdoms. They're kind of they're one of the original GeoSocial Games. Developer out of Blue out of Wisconsin built that. It's basically a medieval WoW light clone on top of Google Maps. And they've come out with some pretty cool stuff where you can actually build kingdoms. You put flag markers on the map, and the people that are in your kingdom can contribute wood and wool and all the medieval stuff to build your castle and your keep. Not to just rip them off blatantly, but that's something we'd like to do with bases and stuff like that, so that beyond just the PvP aspect, there would be the building aspect, and so right now, like the harvesters are a really simple resource, moisture evaporators or whatever. We want them to be like huge forts with big shields that take tens of thousands of bots per day to maintain, so people are incentivized to check in and keep up their farm.
And are you kind of saying at a high level, there's maybe prizes or goals for lower level players that either the high level players can't pursue or don't care about, or there's kind of separate prizes?
I guess we don't have additional content for lobies only. Hopefully the goal is that they see the high level players. I mean, in WoW, if you're hanging around in Ironforge and people have their purple epics and you're level 20, you're like, that's awesome, I want to get that. And then you go look up how to do it. Like, hopefully it's that. I mean, it's EPing, it's bragging, it's all that kind of social stuff. We also have like you level up based on how many bots, just a straight linear how many bots that you launch, which is basically anybody can face roll their way to the level cap. But we also have the notion of ranks. So ranks are more prestigious. You start out at private, you have to accomplish certain things to rank up. So our achievement system, like everybody else, has achievements and badges for how many zones you conquer, how many bots you kill, how many friends you recruit, how many missions you complete. There'll be a whole subsystem of those that keep track of how many achievements you've gotten, and that's we're calling medals. So you'll get like your placard with the ribbons and medals and stuff like that. And the more medals you have, the more you rank up. So once you're up to captain, you'll have more abilities available to you. Maybe like calling an air raid, or I'm blanking on all this stuff. We're still kind of designing that stuff, but that's our step towards the Elder game, is kind of the ranking system. And there'll be gates on how many friends you recruit. So we want people to be telling their friends and bringing them in, and that might you bring one friend in, we'll promote you to corporal. If you bring in one friend and you capture 5 different zones, we'll promote you to sergeant, and kind of move up that way. So it's sort of like reputations in WoW, but actually tied to abilities. Like as you get up each rank, you'll get a significant ability that a private wouldn't have. So, yep. Actually, yeah, that's something we were really worried about. Is if you get 80% on one team, game over, right? It's like it's too easy for one team and it's too hard for the other team. Last we checked, it was like 40, 30, 30. Like Faceless was slightly ahead. It was like Faceless 40, 45, Swarm, and then Legion. But Legion had about half the amount of guys as the Faceless. But one of the things I didn't mention, the way the targeting mechanics work right now, if you're in the nerdery and you're on the second place team or the third place team, we automatically target you King of the Hill style against the first place team, and whoever's the big boss of the first place team is who your big threat target will be. So it was a big concern. We didn't know how much the factions would appeal to different people. So kind of having that early feedback from the beta has been really good. That just by the backstory alone, people are kind of diversifying. So a very important point. One of the other early design decisions, sort of along that, is whether or not we were going to make Conquer a persistent world or a winnable instance like a game of Risk. And that was kind of, we actually started out kind of down that route. But then to that point, we were like, well, if there's a faction imbalance, there's really nothing you can do. And you can easily get to the point of sort of stalemate where one team might have 60, 70% of the board covered, but they'll never be able to get to 100% of the board and win the game. And now you've got this boring stalemate. So not being game theorists, we didn't really know how to solve that problem. So we basically said we'll go persistent and we'll let people level up, and then we'll just keep launching expansions and the Blizzard model, and keep giving people upgrades. What are our design decisions? HTML5 versus native. So we launched the web beta in. Well, okay. So when we got accepted to South by Southwest, we decided. None of us are iOS programmers. I don't know Objective-C, and there was like 6 weeks to learn it. We debated whether we were going to build one of those hybrid apps where you basically build a container in the menu bar on the bottom, and then everything inside the window would be HTML. We didn't know if we could get that through the App Store in time, so we basically went all in on HTML5. That was a great move for the beta because then when we got to South by, a higher percentage of people could play. But as we got closer to, once we got out of there and started getting the feedback, one of the big, zoom through all this crap. Raph Koster, Amy Jo Kim, Jane McGonigal. I'm not even going to get Bartle Quadrant's MMO stuff. Distraction. Everybody writing this down? Maybe I'll post it. I know. Okay, maybe we'll go back to that. The different browsers and the different mobiles turned out to be a real big pain in the butt. We rendered everything on iOS and Safari, and things got out of whack for different browsers, and we just didn't have the time to do all the user agent checking that we needed to do. Well, I mean, when we write native code, we're going to have to do all that manipulation anyway, but at least we'll have control of it. Security, obviously, Jeff is in there on his Fire. You can go into Firefox, have an add-in, and have it change your geolocation like that. So you don't have to. Part of our revenue model is selling missiles, where you're actually launching long range. But if you can just type in San Francisco and deploy bots there, it totally defeats the purpose. So you got to trust the client too much in HTML5. We also had there's a guy that made like 20 characters on his own, Rob 1, Rob 2, Rob 3, and he just dominates zones. The hope being that if on the native version, we'll be able to get your UUID, your unique identifier on the phone, tie it to your individual account. Even that's not foolproof, but we'll be able to put other cheating mechanisms in place to see if the same IP is posting from the same location, more than they should. None of that's written, so don't try to hack us anymore, Jeff. And also, in-app purchases, just the ability to impulse buy from iTunes is, I'm just making this up, but probably 10 times easier to get a converted purchase than having to go through PayPal and log in and put all your stuff. Like, every step in the purchasing process is another chance for people to bounce. So we want to give them the most, the seamless checkout possible. We also, again, we want to launch cross-platform. We looked into mono touch, and mono phone. It's still potentially an option, but we're concerned with framework lock-in in those situations. I don't know if you follow the mono team at all, but the whole Novell basically canned the team, and now they're running under their own power, and it's looking like they're going to actually be okay as a framework. But for May and June, it was looking like that was DOA. So we shied away from frameworks on that. There's also a couple. I think they're really good for building apps called Accelerator by Titanium and PhoneGap that allow you to basically write your app in HTML and JavaScript, and then they compile you down to native. For an app like ours where it's turn-based and it's screen-based, we don't have a lot of animation or anything like that, definitely viable. And we actually had a discussion a week or two ago if we were going to go back and revisit that. And we decided that we didn't know what the performance situation was going to be. We also don't know what the developer situation is going to be. So if we want to offshore or anything like that, then you got to find somebody that's not only that's proficient in those framework stacks, versus finding some iOS programmers is going to be, it might be more expensive, but it's going to be easier. You're going to find a deeper pool of developers. And most likely, if it takes off, you're going to want the native version anyway. So why waste time learning a new framework? So these may work for you in your applications. I don't want to disavow them, but for us, we're going native. Polygons versus pins. So Holy Grail, we want to make it a risk board across the whole world. So there's a bunch of providers, geographic data providers. One that we really want to work with is called Simple Geo. You can see, that's a pretty interesting map. That's, I think, like counties or something like that. And then when you actually drill in, you can actually drill into like Burnsville, and they automatically give you all the geographic boundary data over JSON, and you can render the polygons real easily. This is all in JavaScript. And the difficulty became what we want to be able to do is roll up levels in Conquer. So we showed kind of the pins at the individual level. We want to be able to zoom out and see like county level as a colored in. So there's, I don't know, what are we in Dakota County here? There might be 20 pins in Dakota County, and maybe, you know, Faceless might own 7 of the pins, but overall the swarm has way more bots there. So when you zoom out, you'd see a big green swarm thing for Dakota County. Same thing at Minnesota. Same thing at the U.S. And Simple Geo will help you, can get you there, but all their data is coming from government agencies and stuff like that, and the default data has a ton of overlap. So just because Burnsville here is outlined like this, like the county line might be slicing it in half. I don't really have a good illustration of that, but as you zoom out, you start to see all sorts of bleeding between the polygons, and that got to be just such a big problem that we punted on it for now. But something we'll probably go back to, and we'll probably roll our own polys instead of taking government open source data. We'll probably roll our own. I mean, we'll be able to draw our own risk board type map and then actually serve the map tiles ourselves. Probably version 2. So for now, we're going with pins, and they're basically, we've got it. The pin is actually at a lat and long location, which I think the government data we got it from, I think it actually corresponds to the post offices. So they're going to be a hotbed of activity when we launch. Hopefully they're not too disgruntled. And Justin basically whipped up some crazy math location formula finder, so we know how far you are, what the distance is from each zone. And one of the design principles, we talked to a number of other people that have done GeoSocial games. There's the hyperlocal Foursquare. I'm checking in at Starbucks. I'm checking in at the gym. Checking in at school. That's interesting along that what I did today. But for the Activate game, people actually don't move around that much. You might only go to five spots during a day, but you may be able to check in and conquer like 10 or 12 times, and always from your couch. So we want it to be quasi-local. So you're going to have a default range, depending on your level, maybe 1 mile for every level. So if you're level 150, you'll have a default range of 15 miles. So you can attack half a dozen zones or a dozen zones or whatever. If you're out in the country, you might be a little less. So you've got your default attack, defend, all that stuff. You'll have a radius of control. But then as you level up, or as you purchase items like missiles and bombs and EMPs and stuff like that, those will have a much wider range, and those will have obviously cost credits and money. So not hyper-local, medium local with global reach. So I think the longest missile is about 6,000 miles, something like that. Premium versus secondary currency. This is kind of to the heart of freemium versus, oh no, this is actually the freemium model. So the premium currency is currency that you actually pay US dollars for. So in Farmville, I think they call it cash. I swear to God, I don't actually play it. But you actually spend, you spend $1 US, you get 100 Farmville cash bucks. And those are used to buy premium content, I don't know, a golden cow, whatever. And then coins, coins are the secondary currency that you actually earn from in-game work, all the harvesting and selling that you do. You get coins that actually are used to buy more things in the game. I don't even know, like manure or whatever they buy in there. Right now on the drawing board, we don't have a Conquer premium currency. We just have the Conquer Q credits that you earn in game. We haven't decided. How do I say this? The premium currency is kind of like casino chips, where you go to the cashier window and you get a big stack of chips, and now it's not real money, and so you're more incentivized to spend that. And it works. I mean, that's a good model. I personally, I kind of don't like it. I feel like it's a little bit underhanded, but then again, I like money, so we might go that way. I don't know. Still to be determined. Okay, so we're basically playing an MMO the size of the world. We stole the screenshot from a great company, DokoGeo. They've got a game called DokoBots, which is basically like GeoSocial Pokemon. Awesome guys, but they've kind of been out there doing the math. It's 196 million square miles in the world, and even if it's only 240, so they want to put virtual Pokemon bots around the world, right? And then as you're playing the game, you're scanning, you're picking up bots and stuff like that. If they have 240 bots per square mile, which really isn't a lot, that's not super dense, that's 47 billion database records, and you're starting to talk like serious throughput issues. So what they do is basically generate this. This is probably version 2 or 3 of QONQR. We want to have virtual objects, things that you can discover in the world. What they do is generate content on the fly. So you have a scanner on your phone. You hit go, and it does a little radar scan. And at that time, they generate the virtual objects. Instead of preceding the world with 50 billion objects, they do it on the fly. And then once the bots are discovered by the scanner, you might see 5 bots on your screen. You can only hold 1 in inventory. The other 4 bots are left persistent, and so like you might scan now, you'll see those 4 bots, and then anything new that's on that you see in your scanner. So I just threw that in there. That's a difficult problem of making an MMO the size of the world. Yeah, that's all. That's all from an old presentation. Can I go back? Okay, I'm gonna go back to the metric stuff. So I'm leveraging a lot of stuff from Aaron Bannon. This is all the alphabet soup that you need to know to actually make money in a mobile or social game. I might have butchered some of the terms, but so ARPU with 1P is kind of the high-level top line average revenue per user. So if you have 1 million users and you're making in a monthly users or whatever, and you're making 50K in revenue, that calculates down to an ARPU of 5 cents. Now, the next level distinction is ARPU with 2 Ps, which is your revenue per paying user. I didn't put it in there. So this is interesting. So if you have 50K in revenue, and is it 5,000 guys spending $10, or is it 50,000 guys spending $1? That's two completely different revenue models, target market. It has a distinct effect on how you market your game. If you're doing, I want a whole bunch of people to spend $1, then you're gonna, which is difficult. You're gonna need a lot of players because standard conversion rates are, I don't know, like 1 to 3% in most games. So you're gonna need tens of millions of players, which means you're gonna need that much infrastructure. Or you can tailor your games to the whales, the people that want to spend 10, 50, $100, and they're out there, that they just want to dominate the game. So you, based on feedback and metrics, you can tailor your content and your pricing structure to the whales or to the masses. Lifetime expected value is how much each player will bring in over time. You use that to actually make your projections based on how much it costs to acquire a user, whether it's Facebook ads or in-app offer walls. You can figure out if your app is profitable. If you're spending, if you're spending $100K a month in advertising on Facebook ads, and you're only bringing in $50K revenue, obviously you're not profitable. But you can, over time, you can see where those numbers converge. I should have made a graph of that. Bounce rates, like I talked about, that's where people are actually dropping off. We lose about 1/3 of our players before they actually get to the launch screen. That's a big fail. They're interested enough to try the game, but it's too confusing. Like somebody was saying, I don't quite get. We're not communicating how the harvesters work and how the core game loop works. So all this kind of feedback, you got to have the analytics in there. For the HTML version, we could have done Google Analytics, but we just ran out of time for it. For the mobile apps, we'll get to a couple slides on different options. DAU, MAU, these are the scoreboards. There's App Data is a great site that allows you to see at least all the social games. There's a bunch of other games out there that show you, Farmville's got 30 million players a month. I'm just making this up, but 15 million of them are actually checking in per day. That would be like a 50% stickiness factor. Those are all kind of just macro levels. Some more important information is your 1-day, 7-day, and 30-day retention, which is basically checking to see, okay, you got the user to sign up, you got to level 10, got to the part where he ran out of bots, does he come back? And then do they come back after a week, and then do they come back after a month? And then if you track each one of those separately, and now you've got 3 different graphs that give you a projection to figure out, you basically figure out how sticky your game is, and then how many monthly average users you can expect to get after advertising. I'm not explaining this very well, but I read a lot of this. We don't have any of this wired up yet, so learning as we go. K value is shorthand for the virality of your app. So if your app is on Facebook and people are spamming their friends and actually getting them to sign up, they'll have a very high K value. That's good. That's how you blow up and you go from 1,000 users to 1 million users in a month. I think average rates for mobile apps are maybe like 1.1. So out of every 10 people, one person brings a friend. Just ballpark. Cohort analysis, I'm sure I'm going to butcher, but that's basically keeping track of people that sign up together at the same period of time. So you track all the people that signed up in August and then track them over the next period of months and see where they drop off. So you've got your cohorts in August and you've got your cohorts in September, and then going back to kind of the world event things, is you can see like where the big drop-offs in retention are. If you had a big event in September and you see your cohorts aren't dropping off, they're leveling off, then you've done well. You want to do more of those events. If you find big drop-offs in the August batch, if you see a big drop-off in October, now you know that you've got a problem at the 3-month mark. Kind of get what I'm saying? Like, it's a way to figure out where your drop-offs are, and then you can address that with new content. It's how to find your bottlenecks. And then I quoted Aaron, the real growth is organic growth, which is fueled by the social mechanics of the game. Marketing budgets are simply multipliers of organic growth. The holy grail for mobile apps is getting into the top 10, top 25 in the App Store. That's where you get the big, Hollywood box office spike. That's where you get the Angry Birds level of success. So that's the goal. It's really, really hard because there's, 100,000 apps plus in the App Store and 50,000 or so in the Google Marketplace and stuff like that. But Windows Phone is, there's only, 5,000, 10,000, so the odds are much better. Yeah, it's true. It's true, yeah. Big fish, small pond, small fish, big pond, all that. There's three tools I wanted to cite that help you gather metrics. Flurry is a free open source tool. I think they're on all mobile platforms, at least iOS and they do? Okay. Oh, BlackBerry too, okay. BlackBerry's not on our list, but maybe soon. This is an example of a graph that tracks session length, so 0 to 3 minutes, or what? Oh, 0 to 3 seconds, 3 to 20 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds. The sweet spot for this app here is 3 minutes to 10 minutes. The mobile game and social game is very, very competitive. The people that win in this business are analytic junkies. Zynga is basically known for that. They track every little interaction, every click. They know what the sell-through rate of a wedding chapel in Cityville versus a battleship in Empires and Allies. They know exactly what your players are doing, and then they tweak. And once they find a winning combination, then they ramp up on that. And this can be a full-time job easily for any major mobile app. Multiple people. This is a crappy screenshot. This is a tool called AppSolar. I took this from their website. I think this is tracking monthly users. I don't know. You get the general idea. Contagion is another program that offers similar metrics and stuff like that. I believe all of them have free licenses to a certain point, and once you broach a certain user level, then you gotta cough up the big bucks. But if you want to get to that high level Angry Bird style, you gotta get in the metrics. I think this is XKCD, basically describing the different MMOs and how bad the grind is. The grind is basically just mashing buttons and leveling up your character. Conquer's got a grind in there too. Every nanobot gets you XP. This goes out to that Excel doc that I showed. Eve, I never actually played Eve, but it's kind of a big inspiration because they're doing great. But their leveling curve is legendarily brutal. There's some Korean MMOs that are even worse. It's a first and second job. We want Conquer to be casual, mid-core. We want it to be between casual and hardcore. So like Foursquare and a lot of the Storm 8 games and stuff I showed they're very casual. You just check in and you get the endorphin hit every time you do your little mission and stuff like that. But you can let it go pretty easily versus Eve and WoW obviously can be huge investments of time. So those are for the hardcore players. We want Conquer to be hopefully there's a sweet spot between casual and hardcore, or people that used to be hardcore players that don't have the time for WoW but want to be involved in something, more entertaining than just being the mayor of somewhere. So hopefully that's a sweet spot. And like I said, we have the grind, we have the level grind, which is you can just face roll your way, launch nanobots, and get to the level cap real easy. But then we have the rank grind, which is a lot more difficult. You might have to get up to captain, you might have to have captured 50 different zones, which is only going to happen at, the stars kind of have to align, or you have to get out there and actually move around, or get strategic on the game to figure out, okay, what's my quickest path to leveling up my rank. We want to get into that level of gameplay where you're thinking about the game outside the game, you're metagaming. Yeah, all right. This is a great presentation. Raf Kosser, who I mentioned before, gave a presentation at GDC. It's the social mechanics, everything social. I'm not even going to jump into it, but the PDF is on his website. I highly suggest you Google for it. He breaks down everything from multiplayer games that are, I'm going to mess this up, parallel symmetric, like golf. So like you and I might be golfing, and I hit a 70 and you hit a 75. We're playing the same game, but we're individual. It would be the same. I'd have the same game whether or not you were golfing as well. And then layering those mechanics up to true multiplayer conflict games like tennis and stuff like that, and then all the way up to massively multiplayer games and where there's political intrigue and limited goods, zero-sum games, stuff like that. Highly recommended. Bartle quadrants. Is anybody familiar with? So there's a PhD guy in the 90s that kind of broke down how different players play virtual worlds. Richard Bartle, and he broke down the 4 different types of players. So the killers are the kids that love to play first-person shooters. They just get their joy out of knocking somebody else out of the game. The PvPers. The achievers are the people that like to go out there and get all the loot, find all the objectives, earn all the achievements, play the game. I'd say single-player style, but they do it so that they can show off. They're the people that are in the high-level rating guilds in WoW that want to get world kills and stuff like that. You have the socializers, are the people that just like to hang out in guild chat or IRC or something like that, but always are up on the scuttlebutt and what the latest patches are, and they love to help new players and kind of be an ambassador of the community. And then explorers are players that just love to go find all the little nooks and crannies in the game, whether it being finding bugs or finding more zones. And players can have one player can have scores in each of these, and it's just kind of tendencies. But by having a understanding of these gamer types, it helps you develop your content so that you've got each community served. And the important thing that Bartle realizes is that there's interactions between these types of groups, and they all depend on each other in this big symbiotic relationship where the killers, they just like to grief and mess with everybody, but if there's no other players, then you just got, I don't know, Halo Wars or something. The achievers need people to show off for, or else, a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to get a badge. Socializers can live in their own space, but they're really more interested in the goings-ons of other players in the game. Explorers can live in their own space too, but the killers tend to feed off them. One of the things I loved about the Star Wars Galaxies game, like I fall heavily in the explorers category, so I would go off on Dagobah and find the copper vein in the far corner of the map, which I would then come back and sell. They had a rich economy. You could sell your resources to the weapon makers or the armor makers. And so those people, the armor makers and the weapons makers, would sell to the killers and the achievers who are trying to either PvP or PvE their way to greatness. And then the socializers, the Star Wars Galaxies had these cantinas where people would actually meet, and that's where you'd heal your hit point and mana point and stuff like that. And the socializers had special dedicated musician classes and stuff like that. So it was the original Star Wars Galaxies had a really great balance between the 4 quadrants, and that's something that we want to be able to do. So this is my whiteboard at work, where I've got kind of the blue labels are the stuff that are for version 1, and yellow are for version 2. So killers are obviously going to love launching and deployment. I don't know if you can really see that, but capturing zones, being the controller or the mayor of the zone. that's kind of a little killer and achiever. Achievers are going to love the leaderboard, which I didn't show, but basically whoever's got the most bots and the most kills over time. Medals and ribbons, the achievers are going to be the ones that want to figure out how to rank up and become captains and stuff like that. My hunch is that killers and achievers would be the most likely to spend money, but remains to be seen. Socializers will hang out on the wire. They're the people that are going to hopefully enjoy the Facebook and Twitter integration, bragging about, I just took over Beverly Hills. I just took over the nerdery. They're the ones that are going to hopefully help new players, get integrated into the game and figure out what they're doing before they bounce. I mean, the community aspect of MMOs is so important. If you breed a good, solid community, they'll take care of the noobs for you and save you a ton in customer service costs. And explorers, obviously, 3 million zones. It's almost self-explanatory how much there is to explore there. And then the yellow tabs are like the Devastator bots, like I talked about. Socializers have Social Samba. Explorers will have the rich resourcing model. The geocaching, we haven't talked about this, like the idea of having either you get a pack of 10 missiles if you check into Best Buy at the sponsored battlegrounds, or you go to some state park and you check in and there's a limited supply of iron or whatever there. And the first 50 people to check in there are able to get some rare resource or something like that, and then be able to trade it to builders and whatnot. And that's it. I feel like I spit out a bunch of stuff. Any questions? Okay, so that's going to be on the Wire hub. There's going to be a tab for NPC communication, so your faction leaders giving you missions or telling you about stuff. Another tab for just kind of a broad general chat, and then an additional jump-off point for actual in-game mails and messaging. So we'll run all the communication internally. Hopefully people jump out and organize their own guilds and communities out on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, but we'll have some internal messaging. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. They're kind of talking about the rural areas and how rural areas and areas that are just completely dominated by a single faction, definitely big problems to overcome. We talked about we'll probably have an AI cheats mode where if there's 50,000 or 5 million faceless bots in an area, the computer AI will attack them aggressively. In rural areas, it's trickier. Right now, all of our pins we got from open source government data, and it was based on population centers. So if you go farther up north, Alex or Brainerd or something like that, you might only have, 1 or 2 pins in a 50-mile radius. We haven't really solved that problem yet. That's the more AI, the more stuff that we have, the more things that we have people to spend bots on, the better. So if it's a computer AI opponent, hopefully we'll do that.
So for the problem with the rural areas, have you considered, instead of range being by distance, maybe being a factor of the closest 50 spots, closest 100 spots, something more in more relative terms?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a tricky problem because you might be in, you might be 50 miles out of Brainerd. We use our location formula to figure out what your closest zone is. So you might be 50 miles out of Brainerd, but we'll put your bots into Brainerd. But then your next option is 100 miles away or whatever. I don't know how dense it is up there, but yes, so the distance to the next zone is going to be the hook. But we have long range missiles and other items that you can actually purchase to then affect a longer range.
Or maybe it's kind of you kind of do both. So the closest 50 within 5 miles or something. So if you don't have 50 places within 5 miles, then it extends it further until you reach your quota or something.
We've talked about doing that, and ideally We've talked about actually building a graph. Like right now, these are just lat long pins. We've talked about building a graph of pre-calculating the nearest node. So in Brainerd, we would know where your nearest 5 zones are, and then regardless of distance, you'd be able to travel to that area. Great idea. Computationally, might be a little tricky. I don't know. I just don't know how much data that would be. But I think we don't want to isolate the rural people. We want to give them as much content as possible. And so any ideas like that are good to go.
Just to follow up on that, Andy mentioned the idea of having range. So even for the attack bots, we'll be able to interact with locations that are near you within a certain range. And I mean, we have over 3 million locations, so literally it's like you're driving down the highway and you pass some place where there's like a little tavern on the side of the road. There's a pin there. I was testing the data and I just randomly picked a location on the database that happened to be Afghanistan. And so I pulled up that lat long on Google Maps and there's nothing there. It's in the middle of the mountain. Oh shit, the data's bad. So I zoomed in, I zoomed all the way in, and there's like 12 little stone huts with the side of the mountain in Afghanistan, and there's a pin right in the middle. I'm like, oh yes, serious.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the locations are dense. So you'd be like way up in the northwest territory.
Yeah.
Canada before you started running out of locations that were nearby you. I think the bigger problem is going to be when people are asking about, well, there's not a lot of people playing by you, and try to figure out how to balance that.
Yeah.
I just recall playing a game called Planet Side that Sony also put out, but had similar ideas to this in terms of kind of three-way war and control territory. And one of the cool things I thought they did that may or may not be applicable to this kind of thing is they did kind of networks of fronts, basically. So
okay.
nodes connected to other nodes, and you couldn't like go behind enemy lines, basically. So they kind of artificially created war fronts by saying the point at which conflicting sides are adjacent is where kind of battle occurs. So like maybe there's something cool there to do with like kind of being able to send units across adjacent places such that you can close long distances based on.
And now you've got a strategic Maginot line or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Like I'm all for that. Like we don't know how computationally hard that is. But yes, that's where we'd love to take it.
That part of it.
Because now you've got a strategic element where people are like coordinating offline. Okay, we need to cut off between Chicago and Minneapolis because we're
Right.
I mean, at that level, that's a whole another level of awesome.
We're actually a little bit over.
Okay, great. Thanks everybody for coming out. Appreciate it.
So a couple quick things before we get out of here. Ryan mentioned he forgot to tell you where to find them. Right at the top of IGDATC.org, IGDA Twin Cities. Over on the right side, there's just an email list. It's a free for all, and I think that's where everything's going to get started until we kind of decide on a final communication mechanism. Is that basically it? Okay.